It's my absolute pleasure now to move us on to a Tri-Talk. So it's our own little version of a TED Talk here at Trialogue. And the Tri-Talk is going to be about democracy and social justice. And again, it almost brings us back to the conversation where we started off yesterday with Bohler-Muller as he spoke about social justice and helping us to think about CSI as a way of bringing about social justice. And how do we then realize our freedoms? And as you can see on our screen, we're so pleased that we have Professor Narnia Bohler-Muller, who's going to be joining us. She is a divisional executive at of the Developmental, Capable and Ethical State, and that is a program that is run out of the HSRC. She's also a research fellow with the Center for Gender and Africa Studies at the University of the Free State. Let's give her a very warm round of applause.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome and the interesting conversation that we've just had. I'm going to be speaking a different kind of language now. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to apologize in advance for the fact that it's not a very happy story, but it's a story that we need to take note of so that we can make it a happier story. So the state of democracy in South Africa and social justice, and I'm focusing on research that we've done at the Human Sciences Research Council. It's called the South African Social Attitudes Survey. It's a representative, household survey of 16 years, people in South Africa 16 years and older. And this survey has been running for 20 years. We celebrated 20 years last year. So we have lovely longitudinal data about the state of democracy in South Africa. So what's the SASA's findings? And this is just a quick summary. A decline in level of life satisfaction in South Africa. I think you may relate to this, because we're all citizens, even if we are in companies or NPOs. A downturn in people's views about the future, a sense of hopelessness and despondency, and then a declining satisfaction in democracy. And the elections are coming up on the 29th of May, so I think this is a very important topic. So we have this decline in trust in democracy or satisfaction with democracy because we don't have very efficient governance systems. We don't have people working towards attaining social justice through the mechanisms that we already have. And then, of course, we have mediocre service delivery, which is another problem. And this kind of despondency can lead to political, social, and economic instability in the country. So life satisfaction, you can see the euphoric moment at the beginning, the Mandela moment. And then generally speaking, our life satisfaction, you could almost see that it's a straight line, quite a dip there with COVID, but it's up and down and relatively predictable in a way. But there is a difference. Categories aren't always nice, but they are sometimes important. And that is a difference in life satisfaction by race. And you can see the bottom line over there is a black population in South Africa. So it's almost consistently consistently dissatisfied with life, the quality of their life and their sense of well-being. And then the white population, very high satisfaction at the beginning, coming down, and the Indian and colored population also declining. And you see a massive decline in the Indian and colored populations during COVID, but not the white population. So one would wonder why that is. So we have diminishing expectations of improvement in future outlook, and that is terrible because it's got to do with hope. So the top line is things are going to get better, and you can see where that's gone. And the bottom is things are going to get worse, and you can see where that's gone. It's actually crossed over. And this is a very disturbing graph because we need hope for the future. We need to think that the future is going to be better and not worse. Declining demand for democracy. This is international, but there is a declining demand for democracy, and there's a tendency for people to start saying that maybe authoritarianism is okay because it will deliver social justice. We're looking at the Asian tigers and seeing that they're bringing people out of poverty, getting rid of inequality, increasing employment. And so this is also a little bit of a disturbing trend. Progressive rise in democratic discontent. Again, look at how it's risen right at the end. The discontent and content are far apart from one another. And this also matters because when people are discontented, as I've said previously, it can lead to a sense of despondency and instability. Satisfaction with key performance areas, just some choices that I've taken. The top South Africans are really happy with the situation of social grants. The second line is electricity. So you can see what's happened there. It's gone right down. Water and sanitation has also dipped quite a lot in recent years. And right at the bottom, that's employment. Dissatisfaction with the state of employment in South Africa, and that's where you come in. Decline in confidence in core political institutions. National government, provincial government, local government. You can see the trend is, I don't know where it's going to go from here. So we talk about the vote. We are going to be voting. Take a look at these two graphs. South Africans believe that we should vote. We have a duty to vote. But South Africans also think that their vote won't really count. So at the end there, you'll see 70% of South Africans last year when we got the data said, we have a duty to vote. 33% said that my vote probably won't count. What will this mean for people actually going out and voting if they don't think that their vote is going to count? So we have done some evaluations of democracy at 30. This is very new data. 51% of South Africans believe that, 51% believe that life has gotten better since the end of apartheid. One would have expected that to be higher. Only 36% of South Africans think that democracy's made a big difference. You can see there that the South Africans are quite happy with their freedoms. That side of things is good. Freedom of expression, not going to be arrested, and so on. But when it comes to the socioeconomic side of things, there's a large amount of dissatisfaction. And again, jobs is right at the bottom. So we need to also look at that last point there, that 24% of South Africans think that we haven't really dealt with reconciliation and the oppression of the past. So we can't continue to walk down this dark and potholed road. And this is my final message, really. The future outlook of South Africa is strongly shaped by trust in democracy to deliver social justice. Democracy on its own is not sufficient. It is to deliver social justice. So we need a whole of society approach, a collaborative approach, and you've been talking about collaboration and change, a whole of society approach to deal with this. We cannot leave it to government to solve these problems. First of all, we need to address poverty, inequality, and unemployment, and improve the well-being and quality of life of South Africans, all South Africans. Secondly, tackle corruption and encourage ethical conduct. And thirdly, revive a belief in our constitution, our constitutional values in the Bill of Rights. If we don't do that, we're lost. A democratic state cannot function. It becomes unstable when it is not legitimate or effective. And citizens then lose respect for the system and for institutions. And so the way that we need to deal with this, the way in which we can look at the story with new eyes, is by realizing that we have a role to play in the story, but we can only do it together. Thank you very much.
Try and keep you on the stage just for one or two questions, if you wouldn't mind. Maybe you could join me in the center there. You can take the center seat. And there's been so much reaction to what you've shared that I just want to bring some of that. Joseph says very quickly, the stats are very disturbing. You apologized in advance, so we knew that the story wasn't going to be a positive story. But Joseph says, so what can we do? What can corporates do to really bridge this gap meaningfully, but to do it beyond a focus on triple BEE scorecards?
Yes. I think you've been talking about corporate social responsibility, right? And I think that's very important. Job creation. We really need to start thinking very seriously about job creation, because unemployment in this country is unbelievable. And of course, the private sector and corporations can play a role there, working with governments and the NPOs. There is a kind of a tension between the public and private sector that we need to deal with, because nobody can do it on their own. So I think those are the kinds of things that corporates can think about, working together with other corporates, but also with governments and with NPOs, NGOs, civil society, and come up with solutions in that way.
Final question, what do you see as the greatest opportunity that could come out of corporates and NPOs working together to try and reverse the trend in a reduced demand for democracy, a reduction in trust? What's our greatest opportunity that we could leverage as South Africans?
In your corporate environment, live the values of the Constitution and protect the human rights of the people that you work with. Develop a respect for others and uphold the dignity of others. And I think that's very important. It sounds ethereal, but I think it's very important, because as that happens, people feel as if their voices are being heard, and the sense of despondency is going to be dealt with in some way by doing that.
Prof, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give Prof. Bohler-Muller a big round of applause. Thank you, madam. I must say that one of the slides that really caught my attention was a downtrend in the satisfaction with life as a whole. I just felt that was such a powerful thing to reflect on. If life as a whole and your reflection on that is downward. And there were some really interesting questions that have come through, but We need to keep our program moving. But thank you very much. And I think it's just every now and then important to hear these narratives and stories, but more importantly, see them reflected in the data, because we know that it's not just a doomsday story, but there's the data that is pointing to that. So thank you very much, Prof. Ladies and gentlemen, it brings us now to a point where we are ready for one of the two themes that we are going to be looking at today.